I started small. I became observant. I tracked his routines, his calls, his business trips. He wasn't as clever as he thought. He had patterns nights when he'd always work late, weekends when he'd leave early in the morning. I went through his emails, his calendar, even his credit card statements. Each detail confirmed what I already knew. Lena wasn't just a fling. She was a second life. I began collecting evidence, screenshots, receipts, photos. Every lie was another weapon in my arsenal. At first, I felt guilty, but then I remembered. My mom's smile, her blind faith. And suddenly, I didn't feel guilty at all. Asterisk. There were moments I doubted myself. Was revenge the right thing? Wouldn't it be better to just tell Mum quietly, let her decide what to do? But then I'd remember his words. Don't worry, she has no idea. The smugness, the arrogance. He thought he could live a double life forever. He thought we were. All fools know. He needed to be taught a lesson he would never forget. Asterisk during this time. I found myself reading forums, online Reddit threads, advice columns, stories from people who had gone through similar betrayals. Some stayed silent, some divorced quietly. But the stories that stuck with me were the ones where people took back control, where they exposed the cheater, where they refused to let them walk away unpunished. Those stories lit a fire in me. If strangers could do it, so could I. Asterisk slowly. The plan began to form. Step 1. Gather undeniable proof. Not just texts, but enough evidence that no one could question what he had done. Step 2. Decide the moment. Timing was everything. I needed a stage big enough that his lies couldn't survive. Step 3. Prepare for fallout. This wouldn't just hurt, it would change everything. My mum's life, my life, our family. I had to be ready for the storm. Step 4. Deliver the blow. Not quietly, not in private, but in a way that shattered his reputation and forced him to face everyone he had deceived. Asterisk, I would lie awake picturing it. Maybe at a family gathering. Maybe at one of his work events. I imagined him standing there, smug, confident, and evidence appeared, undeniable, unescapable. I imagined the silence in the room, the gasps, the whispers. I imagined my mum's tears turning into strength as she finally saw the truth. And I imagined my dad's face, shocked, pale, humiliated. That image gave me strength. Asterisk, in the meantime, I started testing him, dropping little hints, subtle questions. Dad, why are you working so late these days? Dad who keeps texting you at night. Each time, he brushed me off with a smile. Just work, sweetheart. You wouldn't understand. It made me furious. He looked me in the eye and lied without hesitation. Good, the deeper his lies went, the harder the fall would be. Asterisk one afternoon, I caught him on the phone again. He was in his car, parked in the driveway, and didn't notice I was watching from the window. I can't wait to see you again, baby, he said, his voice dripping with affection. Don't worry, she still thinks I'm at the office. She never know. My hands clenched into fists. She'll never know. Oh, but she would. And so would everyone else. That was the moment I stopped hesitating. The plan wasn't just an idea anymore. It was a promise. Asterisk, the next week, while my dad was away on business, I helped my mum plan an upcoming family dinner. She wanted to invite his colleagues, close friends, a few relatives. It was perfect. A room full of people. The ideal audience for the truth. While she fussed over menus and tablecloths, I quietly prepared my own addition to the evening. A slideshow. On the surface, it would look like a cute family montage, photos of us through the years. Happy memories, celebrations. Mum loved the idea. Dad wouldn't suspect a thing. But in the middle of the slideshow, after the smiling family pictures, I would insert the truth. Screenshots, texts, hotel receipts. All of it. There would be no escape. Asterisk. The night before the dinner, I lay awake again, my mind racing. Was I doing the right thing? Would this destroy us completely? But then I thought about my mum, about the decades she had given him, the sacrifices she made, the loyalty she showed. And I thought about him, arrogant, smug, believing he could fool us forever. No, he had chosen this path. I was just making sure he couldn't hide from it anymore. Asterisk. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Peace. Tomorrow, the mask would come off. Tomorrow, my dad would face the consequences of his choices. And tomorrow, my revenge would begin. Asterisk. The night of the family dinner came faster than I expected. Our house was buzzing with preparation. My mum fluttering around the kitchen, adjusting dishes on the table, and double-checking the wine glasses, while I stood quietly in the corner, holding the secret that would turn the entire evening upside down. I watched my mum hum happily, her red dress swaying as she moved. She looked beautiful, hopeful. My chest tightened. She didn't deserve what was coming, not the heartbreak, not the humiliation, but she deserved the truth. And my dad. He deserved everything he was about to get. By 7 o'clock, the guests started arriving. Aunts, uncles, cousins, colleagues from my dad's office, a few close neighbors. The house filled with laughter, the clinking of glasses, the smell of roasted chicken and garlic bread. It all felt so normal, so warm, and yet, beneath that warmth, I felt the storm brewing. My dad walked in late as usual, his smile wide and rehearsed. He carried another bouquet of roses for my mum, kissing her cheek as if he hadn't been whispering to another woman just hours ago. Everyone cheered when he lifted his glass to make a toast about family and gratitude. I almost laughed. Family, gratitude. He didn't know the meaning of those words, but he was about to learn. Asterisk. After dinner, while people were sipping wine and chatting in the living room, I stood up and clapped my hands lightly. Everyone, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I put together a little surprise for Mum and Dad, a family slideshow, just some memories from over the years. I thought it'd be fun to share. My mum's eyes lit up. Oh, Emily, that's so sweet. My dad looked pleased, proud even, as if this was another tribute to his perfect life. That's my girl, he said, patting my shoulder. If only. He knew. I connected the projector, dimmed the lights, and the slideshow began. At first, it was harmless. Childhood photos of me in pigtails, Christmas mornings, family vacations. People laughed, pointing out old hairstyles and silly expressions. My mum's eyes glistened with tears of nostalgia. And then, the tone shifted. Asterisk. After a picture of my parents at their 10th anniversary, the screen went black for a moment. Then, words appeared in bold white letters, but not everything is what it seems. A murmur spread through the room. My mom frowned, confused. My dad's smile faltered. Next slide appeared. A screenshot of a text message. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. The room went silent. Another screenshot. Don't worry, she has no idea. She still thinks I'm working late tonight. Gasps echoed around the room. My mum covered her mouth with her hand, shaking her head. "Emily," my dad said sharply, his voice cutting through the silence. "Turn it off, now." But I didn't. The slideshow kept rolling photo after photo, message after message, hotel receipts, credit card charges, emails to Lena. Each one was another knife twisting into his carefully crafted image. Asterisk people whispered in disbelief. My aunt muttered, "Oh my God." My dad's colleague shifted uncomfortably, clearly embarrassed. A neighbor actually stood up, as if ready to leave, unable to watch the spectacle unfold. And my mum just sat there, frozen, her face pale, her eyes glassy with tears. "Stop this," my dad shouted, lunging toward the projector. But I stepped in front of it, my heart pounding, my hands clenched into fists. "No," I said, my voice shaking but loud enough for everyone to hear. "You don't get to hide anymore. You don't get to lie. This is who you are." Asterisk, just as the room erupted in tension, I pulled out my phone. "Actually," I said, looking directly at him, "why don't we let Lena join us?" I hit the speakerphone button and dialed her number. The ringing filled the room. My dad's face drained of color. "Don't you dare," he hissed, but it was too late. "Hello." A woman's voice answered, soft, familiar. "Hi, Lena," I said, my tone sharp. "This is Emily. You might know my dad. You've been seeing a lot of him lately." The silence on the other end said it all. Everyone in the room turned to stare at my dad, whose hands shook as he tried to grab the phone from me. But I pulled it back. "Say hi to the family, Lena," I added bitterly. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. My mum buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Asterisk, in that moment, my dad's perfect mask shattered. The confident businessman, the charming husband, the proud father, it all crumbled in front of his friends, his colleagues, his wife, his daughter. He tried to speak, to defend himself, but no words came. Only stutters and half-truths that no one believed anymore. People started leaving, shaking their heads, whispering about the scandal. His colleagues looked disgusted. His reputation, his pride gone in a matter of minutes. Asterisk for a long moment. The room was silent except for my mum's quiet sobs. Then she stood up, wiping her tears. Her voice trembled, but it was strong. "Get out," she told him. He blinked. "What?" "You heard me," she said, her voice louder now. "Get out of this house. Get out of my life." The guests who remained exchanged glances, some nodding in support, and for the first time in my life, I saw my dad speechless, truly speechless. My mum is the kind of woman who believes in love stories. She still watches romantic movies and cries at the endings. She believes marriage is built on trust and loyalty. For her, my dad was her everything. I sometimes think about how unfair it is. She gave him her youth, her time, her heart. She supported him through every promotion, every late night, every tough moment, and in return, he betrayed her in the cruelest way. She didn't deserve what was coming. None of us did. Asterisk, that year my first year of college life seemed normal. I'd come home for weekends, we'd have family dinners, we'd laugh and watch movies together. Everything seemed fine, but things are never fine when secrets are being kept. And soon enough, the mask would slip. I was about to learn that my perfect dad wasn't just imperfect, he was a liar. And once the truth came out, nothing in our family would ever be the same again. Asterisk, it was a Friday afternoon in late October. My classes had been cancelled unexpectedly, so I decided to surprise My mom had come home for the weekend. Usually, I'd text her in advance, but this time, I wanted to see the look on her face when I walked through the door unannounced. I still remember the crisp chill in the air, the orange leaves crunching under my shoes, the smell of pumpkin spice, lingering from the cafe I'd just left. I was in a good mood. Nothing about that day felt ominous till I stepped into my house. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Usually, if my mom was home, the TV would be on or music would be playing in the kitchen. Instead, there was nothing, just quiet then. I heard it, my dad's voice. He was in the living room, talking on the phone. His tone was low, almost playful, in a way I'd never heard him speak before. Curiosity got the better of me. I tiptoed closer, careful not to make a sound, and that's when I heard him say the words that broke my world apart. I miss you already. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. My stomach dropped. I froze in the hallway, my backpack still slung over one shoulder, my heart hammering in my chest. At first, I thought, no, this can't be happening. Maybe I misheard. Maybe he was talking to Mum. But then he laughed softly and added, "Don't worry, she has no idea. She still thinks I'm working late tonight." He was talking about my mum. And just like that, the truth slapped me across the face. My dad was cheating. Asterisk, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I gripped the strap of my backpack tighter, trying to process what I had just heard. This was the man I trusted, the man I admired. How could he do this? I backed away before he could notice me, slipping upstairs quietly, my mind racing. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor. It felt like the world had tilted sideways. It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. Because while my mum was probably busy planning dinner or ironing his shirts, he was sneaking around with another woman. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But most of all, I wanted answers. Asterisk, that night, I waited until he fell asleep in the master bedroom. My mum was in the kitchen cleaning up, and Dad had left his phone on the nightstand. I'd never snooped through his stuff before. I always respected his privacy, but now I felt I had a right, no, a responsibility to know the truth. With trembling hands, I unlocked his phone. He wasn't clever. His passcode was still my birthday, and what I saw made me sick. Messages, dozens of them. A woman named Lena. The texts were explicit, intimate. Pictures, videos, love notes. He told her things he'd never even said to my mum. "You're the only one who understands me. I wish I could wake up next to you every morning. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. She doesn't suspect a thing." Every word felt like a knife stabbing deeper into my chest. It wasn't just a fling. It wasn't just physical. He was emotionally invested in this woman, and worst of all, he was lying to my mum every single day. Asterisk, I remember sitting there in the dark, holding his phone, my hands trembling. I felt dirty, like I had touched something poisonous. For a moment, I thought about confronting him right then and there, screaming, yelling, demanding an explanation. But then I thought of my mum. If I told her now, it would destroy her. She trusted him completely. She would never see it coming. And so, I slipped his phone back onto the nightstand and walked quietly out of the room, my heart pounding tears. Burning my eyes, I felt like I was carrying the heaviest secret in the world. Asterisk, I couldn't look at him the same way anymore. Every time he smiled, every time he said "I love you" to my mum, I wanted to shout the truth in his face, but instead I stayed silent. I watched him lie day after day. I noticed the little details, now the way he checked his phone obsessively, the way he claimed to have late meetings, the way he suddenly started wearing cologne again. My mum thought it was sweet. She thought he was putting in extra effort for her. But I knew better. The universe has a way of revealing the truth, and my dad was careless. One night, we were having dinner together. My mum was telling a story about a friend from church, and my dad wasn't paying attention. His phone buzzed, and he quickly glanced at it with a small smile. I caught the name on the screen, Lena. He excused himself from the table, saying he had to make a quick call for work. I followed him, barefoot, careful not to make a sound. He stepped out into the backyard, pacing back and forth with the phone pressed to his ear. "I miss you too," he whispered. "Don't worry, I'll find a way to see you this weekend. I'll tell her I have to fly out for a conference." My blood boiled. My mum. The audacity of it all. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't decide what hurt more, the betrayal itself, or the fact that I had to keep it a secret. I wanted to protect my mum, but I also wanted justice. I knew I couldn't just sit by and do nothing. If he thought he could lie forever, he was wrong. I began to imagine ways to expose him, ways to make him face consequences. Revenge wasn't just about anger. It was about making him realize he couldn't play with people's lives and walk away unscathed. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. My mum was planning a surprise anniversary dinner. She spent hours in the kitchen, cooking his favorite dishes, humming softly to herself. She even wore the red dress he had given her years ago. I helped her set the table, watching her face light up with excitement. My chest tightened with guilt. She didn't know, she had no idea what kind of man she was in love with. When Dad walked in, carrying a bouquet of roses, I wanted to vomit. He kissed her cheek, told her she looked beautiful, and sat down like everything was perfect. I sat there, silent, forcing myself to smile, while inside I was screaming. That night, after dinner, I made my decision. I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. If he thought he could cheat and get away with it, he was about to learn how wrong he was, because I was going to make sure my mum knew the truth, and I was going to take revenge for every single lie he had told us. After that anniversary dinner, I couldn't sleep for days. I'd close my eyes and see my dad smiling across the table, holding my mum's hand as if he hadn't betrayed her, as if everything in our family wasn't already poisoned by his lies. The image replayed in my head over and over again, his phone lighting up with Lena, his whispering voice in the backyard, his empty promises to a woman who wasn't his wife. I buried my face in the pillow at night, hoping the tears would stop. But I did. My mum's laughter haunted me. Every time she smiled at him, every time she believed his excuses, I felt sick. It wasn't just his betrayal of her, it was the way he robbed me of my own innocence. He shattered the image of family I grew up believing in, and I couldn't forgive him for that. The question tore me apart. Should I tell her the truth? On one hand, she deserved to know. She deserved to stop wasting her love on someone who didn't value it. On the other, I was terrified of breaking her heart. I would picture the look on her face if I showed her the messages, the disbelief, the hurt, the betrayal. Would she collapse? Would she blame herself? I couldn't stand the thought. So instead, I kept the secret locked inside me. But secrets are heavy. They eat away at you. And the longer I stayed silent, the more the anger grew. Two versions of Dad. It felt like there were two versions of my father. The one my mum knew, the charming, caring husband, the provider, the man who kissed her cheek and pretended she was his whole world. And the one I knew, the liar, the manipulator, the cheater who whispered sweet nothings to another woman while Mum was cooking his dinner. Living in a house with both versions was unbearable. Every time he walked through the door, I wanted to scream. I know the truth, but I stayed quiet. For now, one night, lying awake, my mind spinning, I realized something. Silence wasn't enough. Telling Mum wasn't enough. He deserved more than that. He deserved to feel the weight of what he had done. That's when the idea of revenge took root. At first, it was just a vague thought of exposing him somehow. But as the days passed, that spark grew into a flame. I found myself thinking of it constantly, planning, imagining the look on his face when his perfect world came crashing down. I wasn't just going to tell my mum. I was going to destroy the facade he built, the lies he lived in, the reputation he cherished. Looking back, there were little things. Sometimes, Dad would step outside to take a call and come back in with a strange smile. Other times, he'd leave the house late at night, saying he needed to grab something from the office. Mum never questioned it. She trusted him completely. There were also the expensive gifts. Out of nowhere, he'd surprise Mum with jewelry or flowers. She thought it was sweet. I thought it was sweet too. But later I realized he wasn't giving gifts out of love. He was covering his tracks, drowning his guilt in shiny distractions. But at the time, I never suspected a thing. My dad wasn't perfect, but he was present, or so I thought. He came to my soccer games in middle school. He attended parent-teacher conferences. He even helped me with math homework. Sure, he sometimes worked late or went on business trips, but that felt normal. Don't all dads work hard for their families? When I got into college, he told me how proud he was. He even promised to help pay for tuition, so I wouldn't have to stress about loans. I thought it was because he cared deeply about me. Now I realize it was all part of maintaining his image as a good father, because what I was about to discover would prove that none of it was real. My mum and dad met in college. She was an English literature major. He was studying business. Mum always tells the story of how she was sitting under a tree, reading Jane Austen, when Dad came up to her and asked if the book had a happy ending. She laughed, and apparently that was it. They were inseparable after that. They got married when they were 25 and had me 5 years later. For most of my life, I thought they were still in love. They went on dates. They celebrated anniversaries. They hosted family dinners. Dad always posted about Mom on social media, saying things like, "Lucky to have the best wife in the world." To everyone else, they were goals. But behind the carefully crafted photos and staged smiles, there was another side of him, one I never imagined existed. My name is Emily. I'm 19 years old, in my first year of college. For as long as I can remember, my life seemed picture perfect. We lived in a cozy 2-story house in the suburbs, complete with a green lawn my mum took pride in and a garage, where my dad spent weekends pretending to be Mr. Fix-It. From the outside, we were the American dream. My dad wore his success like a badge. He had a stable job in finance, the kind that let him wear tailored suits and drive a shiny black BMW. My mum was the emotional glue of our home, the kind of woman who baked cookies for the neighbors during Christmas and made sure everyone's birthdays felt special, and me. I was the quiet kid, the good student, the one who never really caused trouble. I believed in my parents. I trusted them, especially my dad. He was my role model growing up. When I was little, I used to run to the door when he came home from work. He'd pick me up in his arms and spin me around. I remember how safe I felt in that moment, like he would never let anything bad happen to me. But looking back, maybe I was blinded by the image he carefully constructed. Maybe deep down, the signs were always there, I just didn't want to see them. I always thought I came from a perfect family. At least, that's what the outside world believed when they looked at Uzmai's father, a successful businessman with charm in his smile. My mother, a kind-hearted woman who spent her life making our home warm and welcoming. And me, their only daughter, who grew up believing that my parents' marriage was the definition of love and loyalty. But everything I believed in shattered one afternoon. I discovered that my father, the man I once admired more than anyone else, wasn't who he pretended to be. He was a liar, a cheater, and worst of all, someone who could hurt the people who loved him the most. And when I found out the truth, I knew I couldn't stay silent. I wasn't going to let him get away with what he had done. This is the story of how I planned my revenge on my cheating dad.